Yeah, I'm expecting to have lower production value now that there's like a screaming demon in the house.
You are in a maze of twisty little passages, all alike. Time to start a fire, crack open a can of Tab, and settle in for FounderQuest.
I was thinking the show we could talk about, I don't know, just kind of like getting used to this sort of, getting settled into this sort of weird new normal, you know, even though it's hopefully temporary. Like the last few shows, we just kind of, I feel we're...
You're saying we actually have a topic this show? Because that actually in itself means that we must really be settling in if we actually have a topic this week.
Yeah. I mean, the last few weeks, it's like, I don't know, personally, I felt like I had no idea what was going on in the world or my life or anything. Like it was just, everything got blown up and it's trying to figure out how the pieces were going to put together. And so this week, I feel personally like I kind of am getting a little bit of an idea as like how it's going to be. And just, you know, it's just a matter of sort of keeping on doing it for 2 months. I don't know how long.
Y'all getting a little bit of a routine dialed in now?
Yeah, exactly. The situation in my house is that my wife is also working from home. She also works in tech as a writer and basically we switch off during the workday. I work mornings, she works the afternoons, and then we take turns watching the kid. And then, you know, we both try and like steal scraps of time, you know, during naps and in the evening or whatever to do things that we couldn't do during our allotted time. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's sort of like, I feel like I'm at the point where I'm kind of like able to sort of like scrape by the stuff I need to do. And it might be a little bit hard to do extra stuff to like start getting ahead. But as far as like just making sure the wheels stay on the car and stuff like that on the work I'm doing, at least it's possible. What about you guys? I think y'all's work situations have changed like less than mine.
Mine hasn't changed a whole lot, to be honest, because I was commuting to an office for a little while, like early last year, and over the course of like late last year, I'd moved everything back home, including I've talked about I've got my home gym now, so pretty much my days was already like spent at home, and we have young kids, but you know I was already home with them. My wife is stay-at-home mom and takes care of them and stuff, so she's kind of going crazy right now because we had to we had to like tell our babysitter that she can't come because you know that's a thing, lockdown. So we have a lot less help right now. I guess that's the big difference. I've been taking a little bit more time, you know, in my workday to stop and help with the kids and stuff, like put them down for naps or that sort of thing.
So my question for you is like, what did you know that the rest of us didn't? Like, you've obviously been prepping for this, Josh. You got your home gym. You've been going on this for at least 6 months.
Yeah. I'm just a hermit. Like, I don't know. I go out like usually during like my work week is pretty much like the same as it has been for the last 6 months. Like I usually will like get up and do some reading. I ride my stationary bike that's in my office. I do some work. I work out, do a little bit more work, and then it's family time. So like usually like before all of this happened, like during the week, like my major outings usually revolved around like food. So like just like getting lunch or something. So I'm not doing that, but we replaced that with getting out. Like we still try to get out for walks and things. I even still have like, you know, the occasional outing here and there as well. So I don't know.
Yeah, my schedule hasn't changed a whole lot either. I'm still getting that 6 hours or 5 hours of sleep every night, waking up at 5 or whatever in the morning, working. See, everybody else is asleep. Like, so my kids are older, so they're they're teenagers, so they're sleeping until noon anyway, right? So I'm working from like, I don't know, 6 to noon ish.
Yeah, and then they play The Witcher for the other 8 hours a day before they go back to sleep.
Exactly. Wait, exactly. Does The Witcher even work if you try and play it at like 4 a.m.? Isn't it down for maintenance every night?
Yeah, I don't know.
Every night from like 4 to 6 a.m.
Wouldn't know. Never tried. Yeah, and then like lunch, and then I'll do a little bit of work maybe in the afternoon sometimes if I feel like it. I'll go for a walk, go for a run. I do miss going to the gym regularly because I was still doing that. So that's kind of a bummer, but I got the weights in my garage and doing that.
Got some stuff.
And, Yeah. So it's not really that much of a difference to me, except that I don't go to my office every day now, even though I'm really usually the only one here. Still, I felt like, it's probably a good idea not to go into the germ environment. I can just shelter in place and just bring my stuff home. And yeah, not much change for me.
That makes sense. It's pretty different working in this new environment. Normally my days, I basically, we work 30-hour weeks at Honey Badger, and I usually, though, I have like a 40-hour week to fit that into. And so now I'm trying to fit that into like a 20-hour week. So it's like things are a bit more hectic. There's a bit less of a leisurely pace to things. And yeah. And then also there's like no downtime. There's like 30 minutes of downtime, or maybe the downtime is like when Ida gets her iPad or something. Yeah. And she refuses to nap.
The routines really help us kind of get through this sort of thing. I've been trying to like keep changes to the routine minimal, or take steps to like maintain routines that we did, before, or replace things.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the sort of systems that we've put in place, like I'm thinking about the stuff I put in place around the blog in terms of project management. Honestly, it's just saving me right now because I have like zero working, I have zero extra capacity to remember things. So like the other day, I forgot to mark a article that was in fact done, and it was still in the needs to be edited category. And so I sent it to this person who is doing some editing for us. And she was like, "You sent me this last week." I was like, it's because I forgot to mark it done. But yeah, let's talk about some I don't know, maybe productivity sort of businessy things. Like personally, like one thing I'm trying to do to get through this and sort of supplement the fact that I'm so stretched now is to get in a little bit of help on the editing side of all these blog posts I'm doing. Because what I had been doing previously is I had been essentially doing all of the big editing stuff and then outsourcing a kind of proofreading to a service called Scribendi. And they're actually pretty good. So I would recommend them if you need that sort of thing. But I'm experimenting with having an actual sort of in-person relationship with an editor who's Melissa, who's a previous sort of author of ours. We published an article that she wrote about Pry recently, and that's actually done really good for us. And she's has editing experience. So I don't know, I'm experimenting with that. So far it's pretty low scale. It's going to be maybe a couple hours a week, just freelance and see how that goes. And so far she's doing a great job. So my hope is that she can sort of, in addition to sort of eliminating that sort of proofreading service, which we're already paying for, in addition to that, she can maybe take on some of the more sort of higher level changes that need to be done that I would normally personally do. And so then that would sort of free me up to then go on and do improvements instead of just sort of, making sure that the system is just running. In terms of, the business, I think we briefly talked about this, but we're going to, we normally do a once a month chat with all of our employees and everything, an all hands just to hang out. And I brought up maybe making that more frequently, and Ben suggested weekly. And so we were kind of hovering in on maybe Mondays doing that as sort of a non-required thing, just for fun.
Yeah, I like that idea. One thing this is forcing is it's forcing remote teams to become even more remote, because now that I think the reason we're thinking about changing it up is that we don't have the social outlets that we normally do that helps us get through the remote lifestyle that can be isolating. So it's forcing us to think about that a little bit more and build more of that into our company DNA.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people are I see a lot of people on Twitter and they're like, "Oh, is this what remote working's like?" It's no, it's usually much more, it's usually much nicer than this.
Yeah.
It's not a case of the world ending. And
yeah, although if you do it, if you're new to remote or if you are doing it wrong, it can be pretty, it can get pretty bad if you don't have if you don't establish good habits even in normal times too, I would say.
Yeah, I think a lot of people when they start working from home, they're excited about the idea of being able to not have to commute and things like that. And one of the side effects that I've seen many times is people just work more, right? They start to lose the boundaries between work and home, and they end up working 10-hour days. And they don't really notice it because it just blends together. And oh, the computer's there. Oh, let me check my email. Oh, and then half an hour later, oh, I'm working, right? I think a lot of people who have made that transition have gone through that phase and realized they needed to set up some things around their life to make sure that doesn't happen. Maybe my commute is, taking off the PJs and putting on some sweatpants, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, some way to delineate what's work time and what's home time. And sometimes that can take a while. So I hope that people get enough time during this phase where they can actually learn that and work through those things, so they can understand, like, oh, this is really what working from home is like once you actually get into the groove.
I've heard people say that it really helps to like have like specific rituals for starting and stopping work when you're working from home. So I've even heard people, I forget who it was, read a book semi recently where they were like, they have like rituals where they like actually have like a saying that they utter like when work is over, like just to like get it into their head, like, I am now done.
I really like that. I really like that.
Yeah. So you could have your like, your like little work rituals at home. It could be small things. It doesn't have to be,
Like, come to think of it, having worked from home the majority of my career, I kind of like do that stuff too, but without really thinking too much about it. Like, to start work, basically, I get out my little notebook. I make a little list of things to try and not forget today. Things that I maybe need to do, and like drink some tea. And that's kind of like the start of the day. I tend to do that, like, even if I don't have a full day, even if I know like exactly what I need to do, just write it down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what y'all are talking about is structure, like overarching, like, and this is kind of what we're moving towards a little bit more with the sort of weekly just hangout meetings. It's kind of just injecting a little bit more structure into sort of the company remote culture to maybe compensate a bit for the structure that's lost from being able to go to the outside world. Taking my kid to daycare and picking them up and stuff like that's the structure. Like, I've got to leave by 5 because I've got to go get my daughter. And, everybody has little things like that. And suddenly like all those are gone. And it's just this Wild West situation. And I just want to show my age for a second. I think it's so funny that like people are like, what are you doing wearing jeans? You should be wearing sweats. It's like sweatpants are like a category now, and like casualness, like below jeans, but separate from pajama pants.
Right.
Whereas like in my olden days, my antiquated way of thinking, like pajama pants are basically the same as sweatpants.
Yeah. And jeans are things you wear to like casual day or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The jeans are like the new formal. I don't know. I never got into athleisure, so.
I like Michael's jeans on The Office were always funny. He had these like his casual day jeans, and whenever he got into his casual day jeans, like the real shenanigans would happen because they would just make him. God. They would make him extra crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, like there used to only also be light jeans, but now you got light jeans and dark jeans.
What about acid wash?
Acid wash. Those are just on another level, Josh.
I mean, that would be a way to really know you're working, though.
Yeah. Speaking of acid wash jeans, we started watching Tiger King last night, which is this new show on Netflix everybody's talking about. It's about. Have y'all seen it?
Mm-mm.
I recommend it. It's one of their like limited series documentary true crime shows, but I don't think anybody actually gets like hurt in this one, so it's good. So we're not quite profiting off or making light off of somebody getting hurt. And yeah, it's about this private zoo owner in Oklahoma named Joe. I think his name was Joe Exotic. And
is that like, the guy that ran for president?
Probably. He ran for governor of Oklahoma. Anyway, and it's super interesting to me because he's got like a mullet. I'm sure he had lots of acid wash jeans, super redneck guy, kind of like a stock character. And it's really weird for me to watch this because like I'm from the like Arkansas, Oklahoma region. And so like everybody in there is just like everyone who is in this documentary seems bizarrely familiar to me. It's like, I don't know any of them, but it's like, I know people like them, including people like Joe Exotic. And it's just bizarre.
Let's check that out.
So anyway, moral of the story, like watch that show. It's really good. And don't ever pay to pose with tiger cubs because it is bad news. It's bad for the tiger cubs.
We finally bit the bullet and subscribed to Disney Plus. I made it this far, but yeah, this was the last drop. So we're now Disney Plus subscribers. Kaylin said something about the other day about like the kids have so few pleasures left. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like they have like unlimited Disney, like high definition Disney.
What else do you want?
Like we were lucky if we got like the VHS tape to like, you know, rewind properly. So
and not like eat itself.
Yeah. Like we had to blow in the cassette tapes.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, we might have to do that too. So Ida's iPad actually broke the screen got messed up. And so we got her a replacement, but it's not an iPad because iPads are really expensive to give to a little kid. So we got her an Amazon Fire tablet. They have a kid one that's like indestructible. And it's sort of the same deal as Disney Plus. It's like it comes with a year of their subscription service. And the subscription service is basically like the Apple App Store, just loaded with kid stuff, and it's unlimited. And so she's like downloading all these games, and she's just like, ah. And yeah, so it's like she briefly turned into like a guy in his early 20s, sort of shut into his dorm room, just playing games. It's like didn't want to eat or talk to anybody or sleep.
It's just it's like training for college. It's preparation for things to come.
Yeah, there you go. But the upside of that is that she at least is not watching YouTube as much. So anyway, what we're talking about, so like we should probably get back on the other thing we've been talking about is because this is about time for our quarterly team all hands meeting, which we affectionately refer to as our conclave, and that's not going to happen in person. But we've been talking about ways to move that to a remote structure. And I don't think we have that fully figured out yet, because I don't think any of us want to sit on Zoom for like 8 hours straight, which is what we would usually do in person. Break for lunch, of course. But yeah, so I think we're talking about ways we can tackle that remotely. That makes sense. We need to work that out. Maybe split over several days, or maybe like, I don't know, have just the three of us meet for longer than everybody else. Cause like, everybody probably doesn't want to be involved in every single conversation about things that don't really have directly to do with them. So
I feel like there's much more opportunity to like take advantage of the asynchronous communication style this way. Like there might be some benefit there to us, I think, because it would give us a little more time, as long as we have like some structured planning around guiding the discussions and things. It might give us more time to put, like more like deeper thought into things and like explain ourselves more clearly than if it's all just kind of off the cuff.
Oh yeah, totally. That makes sense.
We also talked about, you had the idea of sharing more financial information just to give, over communicate, give some reassurance that yes, we're okay. So I had my one-on-one with Ben, and we talked about the financials, like how much money is in the bank. And, we have seen a slight decline in the revenue. It's not crazy yet. And it feels like a typical kind of up and down, like a normal course of business thing, but we're obviously keeping our eyes on that. And so I talked through that with Ben, talked about how we're thinking about. We're cautious. We're cautiously optimistic. Like we don't feel like there's going to be huge impact to our business, because a lot of our customers are not going to be dramatically impacted by, having to stay home, that sort of thing. But obviously it's a concern that we have, and especially as projections for how long this goes on continue, like there could be some impacts to our revenue. But talking about where we are with our current balance and how we have, we're cash flow positive, we've always been pretty conservative on our money, so we don't, spend ahead of revenue or anything like that. So we've communicated that stuff in the past, but I think Starr, you had a great idea of, reiterating like our operating principles and our beliefs, and also, giving a snapshot of what we're doing today.
Awesome. Like when you're an employee, you don't really have that intimate knowledge of businesses' financials. And so I don't know, everything seems a little bit more off in the fog, and you have to trust that it's just kind of working and it's going to maintain itself.
That reminds me. Yeah, I was totally nodding when you were saying that. But I did tell Ben, because, as an employee, you're kind of nervous, right? Like, I could get laid off, right? If things get bad, or I could get laid off anytime, really. I mean, there's no stopping a business owner from just terminating you anytime they want, really, in the US anyway. And so I said to him, we're good financially. We have money in the bank. We have, we're cash flow positive, et cetera. It's like, we're not anticipating any layoffs. We're not planning on doing any kind of reduction like that. I was like, and we definitely won't, say one day to you, oh, by the way, Ben, you don't have a job anymore tomorrow. Like, good luck. It's like, if we see that sort of thing coming, we'll obviously give you plenty of notice, right? So you don't have to panic.
That's a really good idea. That's a really good idea.
But I also told him, I committed us, the three of us, I said, and if things get bad, like the three of us, we will take a salary cut before we start cutting employees. Like we feel that's the right thing to do. So heads up.
I don't know if I go that far. Stop recording. I've got payments to make on my Switch.
Right.
I've got that $10 a month
on the Switch. The
premium
Switch
coming out of my.
Yeah, you got to pay back that guy at Animal Crossing, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've got to pay. I've got to work off my indentured servitude to Tom Nook. Great game, by the way. I started playing it. Great game.
Yeah.
Kaylin's been playing that because she got a Switch, and yeah, she's really liking it.
Nice.
Yeah, I was thinking about this because there's been a lot of memeing going on about how it's like, okay, so people are learning who don't really pay much attention to business normally that most businesses don't have a ton of cash where they can keep on operating for more than like a month. Most businesses operate on a pretty hand-to-mouth system, even if they are relatively big.
Mm-hmm.
And, we have a little bit more buffering than that. And I was just thinking about that because like there's all these memes going around where people being like, oh, like you expect like normal people to have 6 months of savings, but your business doesn't have 6 months of savings. And like it occurred to me that whole, like both of those things are actually probably caused by the same structural force, which is like in both cases, you have the owners of the business trying to, like, the one thing they're trying to do above all else is to maximize investor returns. And so any sort of surplus that you have laying around goes to investor returns. It doesn't go into like a rainy day fund, and it doesn't go into like paying your employees more than you absolutely have to, so they can do their own rainy day funds.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's just something. I was just thinking about that because that's, thankfully one force that we don't really have operating on us directly. Although, I'm sure all of our customers do.
Yeah, although I did hear that I think Apple has enough cash on hand to run their business for a year without any revenues. Like if all the revenue stopped tomorrow.
Apple.
Yeah,
that's Apple.
I mean, that's darn impressive.
Isn't that because it's all like stuck outside of the country and they haven't been able to like bring it in or something? Or did they figure out a way like around the taxes?
Yeah, I don't know.
I've heard they have like massive cash reserves or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they do.
I mean, it would be nice if businesses all operated like that, because if that's the case, like basically like businesses could kind of just finance their own, shutdown basically, and just like it would just affect like long-term profits for the overall economy, but it wouldn't, the businesses would bear the cost of that versus the taxpayers.
I was just going to say that maybe it also, even one step farther than that, it goes back to the whole, like everything's based on price, right? Because like the reason Apple can probably have that much cash in the bank is because they can charge a premium. They're not like a low price per liter or anything. So I don't know. It's maybe. Yeah,
it really depends on the type of business. And that's why one reason why that'll probably never happen.
Yeah, I think if you read Justin Jackson's thing about margin, that's the argument he's making, right? If you run a business that has that kind of margin that gives you that luxury, then things are much, much easier, right?
Yeah.
And I think that applies on a personal level as well. If you live your life where you're basically just living below your means, right? If you are simply just spending less than you make, then over time you can accumulate that buffer, that rainy day fund, so you can weather a storm that comes when it comes. Because storms will come.
Yeah, it's so much better. It's so much better just to live on half your income, because then you don't have to worry pretty much.
Yeah, and even without the savings component, it's good knowing that you just have to, if you need to find a job, you only need to find a job making half as much as you're making now, which is always easier.
Yeah, totally. You could take a 50% pay cut and still nothing would change.
Like it's not. Yeah, like we're talking about sort of survival situations. Yeah. We're not talking about like ideal situations.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's an interesting time for the world. We're having conversations that most people haven't had. Our grandparents experienced the Great Depression, and left some of that legacy with their children and how they live their lives, right? And we're a bit removed from that. We don't have as much of that in our psyche as our parents did because of that event. Well, now we're experiencing an event that could be very similar to that experience that they had, and I think we will definitely have a community psyche adjustment. At least I hope so.
For sure.
Right.
I don't know about you all, but I'll be washing my hands for 20 seconds for the rest of my life.
For real.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And like, this is also, I like every day, it just gets drive home more and more just how like insanely lucky we all are. And not to say that we haven't worked hard and all that stuff. Like, yeah, we've worked hard and everything, but it's like lots of people have worked hard in industries that are just like shut down now. Yeah. And they just don't have any, like, there's people who've worked way harder than I have who are just out of work through no fault of their own. So
yeah, we're very, very fortunate to be in the business that we're in, because we could have put this much work into, and even twice as much work into our own restaurant chain. Right. And right now that would be just washed away.
Yeah, it would be tough. Going back to the whole, like, living on, less than you make thing or whatever, having a good buffer. I was like looking at the income requirements. It's the CARE Act, right? That's going to give everyone, cutting checks to everyone in America. But I mean, there are income thresholds where you won't get a check at some point. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking about that because I know that there's a lot of people out there that make more than the income thresholds, but they are so overextended as far as like their mortgages, car payments. Like, if they're doing the typical McMansion lifestyle or whatever, they would probably like really appreciate that that little check right now. And I bet some of them will be complaining about it.
Okay, I'm gonna get a little political on you here. So
okay,
fair warning. I was reading this week about this act coming through and things, people making various arguments of what we should do to help people. And one thing that came out is like, it's kind of a big deal that we have this huge jump in unemployment that was just reported yesterday. And yet all of our health insurance is tied to our employment. Like, that's probably a bad thing to have in this situation. And like, I like, this has been like one of my things, my soapboxes for years. It's like, let's divorce employment from your health insurance, please. Let's just, so I'm hoping beyond hope that this event will push that over the edge and will actually make that happen. Like, I care less about whether it's private insurance versus multi-payer versus single. That's just great. We can talk about that, but just make it not tied to your employer, for Pete's sake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's, I have a feeling a lot of people's opinions are going to get changed about a lot of things.
Yes.
In the coming year.
Yeah. It seems like that whole thing is like a holdover from a very, very different time. Like, that was like back in the early days of like when health insurance became a thing, like back when it was like created, all about, right? Like, it was the companies that were pushing it initially.
Yeah. Well, it was all about, post World War II, you could not raise salaries past a certain point. There was price control on that.
So they started to compete on
offering
benefits.
That as benefit.
Yeah.
So let's just unwind that.
Right.
Yeah, put everyone. I mean, I think for me, like, when I look at, of course, I have no idia what I'm doing here. I'm just a web developer, right? But I would say, just
I'm just a simple country web developer. I don't cotton to these big city ways.
let's just transition from employer-based private insurance to 100% private market private insurance. Like, everyone goes to the marketplace and buys the insurance that they need. Okay, that's a step we can take, and let's talk about other steps that we might want to take at some point. Fine, great. But I think, like, if we could just do that one thing, get everyone out there buying health insurance for themselves rather than through their employer. Direction. Yeah. I think that would be helpful.
As like a freelancer,
it gets so complicated though, because it's like easy to think about. It's easy to think about like the main sort of happy path in terms of that, but there's so many sort of sad paths, and there's so many like it's like people's lives are so complicated that
obviously you'd still need to, like, you need to cover the people that can't do that, like, or don't have any chance of doing that. But yeah, like, even just like as a freelancer, like in my early 20s, learning how the world works, and I didn't go through the career path. So I didn't go work for a company. Like, I pretty much just went straight into freelancing. so I learned the value of buying my own health insurance, and it wasn't fun because it wasn't cheap as a young person. And I don't think a lot of people don't learn that is something that you should, like, insurance is something that you should buy for yourself. Like a lot of people just kind of assume that it's something that comes along with all the other benefits that you get from employment or whatever, citizenship.
Yeah, I will say that when I was doing freelancing when I first transitioned from an employee to being a freelancer, that really opened my eyes to the whole insurance thing. Yeah, like you said,
then you have to buy your
own insurance on the private market. It was, and that was before Obamacare, so it was a different world. If we could just agree to get it away from employers, that would be so much
better. Get it away from employers 100%. And maybe standardize the rules of the coverage a little bit so that everyone's not like bartering over the different provisions and stuff, or, you know, a lot gets wasted and just trying to figure out like how each plan should work.
Yeah, it's all very complicated, and sort of like ideologically, I really like the idea of single payer. Personally, like right now, like I wouldn't really enjoy like transferring all of my health stuff over to like some different system, but I recognize that like any change is going to really, it's going to be change. It's going to involve a lot of pain in the neck stuff for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to like about the single payer thing. And I think one thing that we're seeing with this pandemic is that healthcare is a national interest issue, right? We should care about everyone receiving adequate healthcare. Yeah. Because that only helps everyone.
It affects our health. Like,
totally. So, and if that is like the actual goal of like any sort of private insurance, whatever, and, you know, they make it so that that's possible, then sign me up for that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The whole idea of like, oh, it's like, I've got to choose between like rent or like not dying.
Totally.
It's a false, like, it's just, I just think like, at this point, I think the fact that we require this as a country is a moral failure. Like, I think morally we need to do better for people.
And hopefully we'll have more of these conversations nationally as a result of this. That's my...
Maybe we'll actually be able to talk about it this time.
Hopefully. Yeah. Hopefully we'll be able to have some good conversations around how we want to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, and they're all going to happen over Zoom. So
right,
your Zoom stock is going to go way up.
Yep.
Yeah,
or your Slack, and your Slack and your Zoom. Yeah,
exactly.
There you go. We've got a play date with all of my daughter's daycare kids.
Can do it.
Lined up in a couple hours. So just FYI,
that'll be
the company Zoom account for a lot of this stuff, so we can like get more than
that's awesome
20-minute Zoom calls.
It's all good.
That'll be something to grow up with if this is like a thing, like doing your daycare meetups on remotely. Well, that'll be something that'll stick, I imagine.
Hopefully not, because they'll be going to daycare.
Yeah, well. Yeah,
we got to get back in that.
You might find a lot of people like decide they like this new lifestyle, right? You and Evie might decide, you know what, we actually like this. We're going to keep Ida at home. Star's going to work in the morning and Evie's going to work in the afternoon, and we're going to just do this as a family.
We've talked about homeschooling, to be honest, and this if anything, this drives me more in that direction than less, because I see what people are dealing with like the school systems in a crisis like this, and I'm like, I'm glad my kids aren't in school yet.
Yeah. We're supposed to start pre-K in, when is it? June?
Yeah.
So I read this article this morning that was like, the social distancing in Washington's working, but they need to keep it up through like early June for it to actually make a difference, like in the long term. So it's like, ooh, well, we'll see what happens there.
You know, something interesting, going back to Ben, you said that, you know, we've never really dealt with anything like this before. And this is, you know, it's got like our grandparents could talk about the Depression and stuff. And we had 2008, which was a big event on the grand scale of things. But one thing that is different between then and now, among a lot of things, is podcasting. But podcasting has grown a lot since then. I think that'll be kind of interesting, because there's a lot of smaller businesses like ours that are now, like, I assume, documenting this whole period that maybe happened a little bit less in 2008. There was some, but there's certainly a lot more happening right now.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's definitely the first one that needs to happen when everybody's writing about it and talking and posting about it and all that stuff.
Of course, will anyone ever come back and listen to them all? I don't.
I don't know, maybe some like doctoral student will do their thesis on like honey badgers, like podcasting.
Yeah.
And honestly, that would be great because that will mean that like society's been prosperous enough that somebody can like waste their time doing that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So do we have any messages for future generations? Anything
future generations of badgers, but when every citizen in the world is refers to themselves as badgers.
Yeah. Messages: stay home, stay healthy.
Yes.
Hopefully you don't have to deal with this like we are. Hopefully we have it figured out by then.
Yeah. I don't know. If there's one good thing that's coming out of this, I think it's that, at least in my household, we're actually sort of reaching out to people more that we know just to make sure everybody's doing okay, see if we can help people, stuff like that. So, if anything, it's like we're being driven maybe physically apart from people, but I don't know. I feel like in other ways we're being pushed closer. So that's kind of nice.
I heard everyone's back on Facebook.
Oh my God. No, I'm not.
Not me.
Oh my God.
Apparently they've had a huge uptick in people rejoining that had left, during the whole like Facebook, whatever it was called.
Right. Yeah. I totally want to see what my racist uncle has to say about
reconnect
COVID-19.
Yeah.
That's great. All right. So if y'all don't have anything else, oh my God, you had to bring up Facebook. Now we're just going to leave on a sour note. Okay. Well, no, I'm a never Facebooker.
Yeah.
Well, I was a Facebooker.
I like that.
Before,
never face.
Yeah. It's like I threw a party.
What about like never
Facebook?
Never Zucker?
A never Zucker. Yeah. What about that guy? He was like, I'm going to run for president. Everybody loves me. Then he got hit in the face by reality.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's great talking with y'all, and catch you next week. Have a safe and prosperous week.
Yeah, you too.
Oh wait, I got to say the stuff. If you like this show and you're stuck at home, go to Apple Podcasts and review us. If you want to write for us, if you write about Ruby or Elixir or whatever, we've actually had kind of an uptick in people wanting to write for us, including some people who you might even like recognize who are fairly well known in the little community we live in. If you want to do that, go to our blog, look at the top navigation, and see the Write For Us link and our blog's at honeybadger.io. All right, I think that's it. So have a good one, guys, and catch you later.
FounderQuest is a weekly podcast by the founders of Honey Badger. Zero instrumentation, 360-degree coverage of errors, outages, and service degradations for your web apps. If you have a web app, you need it. Available at honeybadger.io. Want more from the founders? Go to FounderQuestPodcast.com. That's one word. You can access our huge back catalog or sign up for our newsletter to get exclusive VIP content. FounderQuest is available on iTunes, Spotify, and other purveyors of fine podcasts. We'll see you next week.